Hello there, dear friends, and welcome once again to the Relaxed Fantasy Review. Today, we're continuing our series on Sebastian Crow's Guide to Drakkenheim, and we're talking about the subclasses that the Dungeon Dudes have designed. Today, we're talking about a rogue subclass. Rogues are an interesting thing in D&D. And in the worlds of Drakkenheim, where the Dungeon Dudes have designed this book from, rogues usually fall into the Queen's Men, a guild of individuals who have found themselves as the criminal element in an abandoned eldritch city, treasure hunting and value seeking and trying to take advantage of the situation. And what better subclass to give to a Drakkenheim rogue than the Smuggler? The smuggling is something that rogues have done since the dawn of fantasy, and the idea that a person would be trying to slip things in and out of a contaminated city makes a lot of sense. But how do you build an entire subclass around that when every rogue can smuggle? Sleight of hand and stealth is something that is easily come by. What makes this smuggler special? We'll get into the details in just a moment, but before we do, I'd like to let you know, Relax Fantasy Review has memberships. For just $1 a month, you can support me here on YouTube and get a couple benefits. First, you get a little badge next to your name in the comments, letting folks know that you're a supporter. But also, you get early access to the videos. I upload videos Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I upload them a day early for members only. If that interests you, you can click the join button just below the video down there. And if it doesn't, I'm still thankful for you. Thanks for being here and watching my content and supporting me here on YouTube. So rogues choose their subclass at level 3. And right away, the smuggler gets a couple benefits from their subclass. First, they get the ability Pack Rat. This means that they have essentially a magic bag. Even though it's not an object, it's a class feature. At any time, they can, as an action, reach into their coat or their bag or whatever and produce adventuring gear. The adventuring gear has to have a value of 25 gold or less and weigh less than 10 pounds. But you don't have to go buying stuff. You don't have to go buy extra rope, you don't have to buy pythons or caltrops or anything that falls under the adventuring gear table. This is a fun little way that the rogue can just pull stuff out of their pocket as necessary. Now, they can only do this proficiency bonus times per day, and it specifies in the feature that the equipment is completely functional, but it's worthless. You cannot pull out a 25 gold piece of adventuring gear and sell it. When you would look at it, you can tell that it is worthless junk, but it still does the job of the gear. This kind of, have whatever you might need at the moment is very MacGyver-y. And it does provide a fun playstyle for a rogue who wants to be a problem solver. And I think it's a really cool feature. It very much resembles a creation bard with their, we can make stuff, or a conjuration wizard with their trinket creation. But it goes a step further and defines it much better. And I think that this is a 9 out of 10 feature. It's really good. The next thing you get is Tricks of the Trade. You get a couple extra proficiencies. You get proficiency in the Disguise Kit, as well as land and water vehicles, which is situationally useful. You also get expertise whenever it comes to smuggling and stealing things. Basically, if you're using sleight of hand to conceal something, or if you are trying to convince somebody that you're not smuggling when you really are, it is kind of open-ended, and you get to add double your proficiency bonus to those checks, which really helps, because rogues naturally get expertise anyway, but they only get a couple of them. This says that as long as you're doing stuff related to smuggling, any skill can have expertise, and that's very useful. I think it's largely up to DM interpretation, but I could certainly see it being broken if the DM is very lenient with it and you can just start applying expertise to anything you do as long as you're smuggling stuff. I don't know. It's a little tricky to define, but it sounds powerful. The final thing that you get from this feature, and this is one of those weird ones that's incredibly niche, but also useful when it comes up. You can modify vehicles specifically for smuggling. With an hour of work, you can take a large or smaller vehicle, so a wagon of some kind, and you can modify it so that up to 1/4 of its full capacity now has hidden compartments used to smuggle objects, which will not, which will pass scrutiny. You can also modify larger vehicles with more time if you've been given it, up to full-size gargantuan vehicles like ships and airships and stuff if they're in your campaign. And up to 1/4 of their space is a lot of space. Now, how often does this come up? How often is this the sort of thing that's going to be useful? I suppose if you're on a ship and you have a couple days and then you get attacked by pirates, you could hide in the compartments. Or if you genuinely are running a campaign where you need to smuggle something, this would be amazing. But it's a very niche power that's not going to be useful most of the time. Still, the fact that you get some tool proficiencies and some skill expertise is thrown in there makes this not a terrible feature. I'd say that it is largely niche and dependent on your DM. But if nothing else, a couple tool proficiencies and a couple skill expertises now and then will earn you an 8 out of 10 from me. And then the last thing you get is much simpler, and it is blend into crowd. Normally, in order to take the hide action, you have to be totally obscured. Or if you have some special feature, you could potentially be lightly obscured. This says that you can attempt to hide as long as you are obscured by 2 or more creatures that are next to each other and that are your size or bigger. This makes it incredibly easy for you to hide in a crowd of people, or even in a small group of people. Is this useful? Yes, I'd say. I'm not going to say it's going to come up much in combat. Like, I don't think that it's going to work a whole lot if the rogue is trying to duck behind. Like, you've got the enemies, and then you've got a fighter and barbarian at the front, and the rogue steps behind them and takes the hide action. Yeah, sure, now they can use sneak attack the next turn. But they could have gotten that anyway, because the fighter was standing next to the enemy. It's a tricky situation, and I think that there are times it will come in handy. Escaping pursuers, or, stealing things. That's really what this is. This helps you escape after you've stolen something and they caught you. Like, it's nice. There are some races that also get the ability to hide as a bonus action that are small, which means they can easily slip into a crowd. I'd say this is 7 out of 10 territory. Helpful sometimes, but can be replaced with other features in the game that aren't difficult to get, especially if you make the right racial choice. And if you have noticed, I don't know if you've noticed this or not, but all 3 of these features basically do nothing in combat. They are all practical utility features that give you special items when you need them, that help you disguise and smuggle and steal better, and help you hide better. I don't think any of these are really going to come in handy in a fighting situation. So then let's go to level 9, Rogue 9. And you get the ability Slip Past. When you take the dash or disengage action, which remember are bonus actions for you because you're a rogue, you can move through creature space, which normally you can't do. Normally you have to make a check to do that. Without making any sort of check, you can just do it. And if you move through a creature's space while doing this, you then get advantage on any attacks against them this turn. So the idea here is that you bonus action dash, run through a creature's space, kind of come out the other side, and turn around and stab them. And you automatically get advantage. And that triggers sneak attack. It's a fun way to trigger sneak attack, and a nice way to enhance the battlefield prowess of the rogue, which is what I wanted at the earlier levels. We had to wait till level 9 to get it. But it's a nice power. It's basically advantage on a stick as long as you're using cunning action. And I say it's 10 out of 10. It's really, really good. And it gives you far more mobility, even to a class that loves its mobility. Now, level 13 comes along, and we find another situationally powerful feature. It's called Never Tell Me the Odds. Very Han Solo, Dungeon Dudes. And this one is very simple, where you can still trigger sneak attack if you have disadvantage on an attack, as long as you meet the other prerequisites for sneak attack. So let's go into that. Sneak attack triggers in one of two situations. One, if you have advantage, you trigger sneak attack. There you go. The other one is if the enemy you're attacking has another hostile creature, so one of your allies preferably, next to them, within 5 feet of them, then you also can trigger sneak attack. But neither of those things will work, normally, if you have disadvantage. Now, one might be saying, well, if I have advantage, how can I have disadvantage? Aha! But that's not how D&D works. You see, D&D has a fun little rule where if you have disadvantage and you have advantage at the same time from 2 different effects, they cancel out and you just have a regular attack. However, you still have advantage and disadvantage when you roll that straight attack. The features still are there. Meaning that if you are a rogue who has disadvantage for some reason, and you gain advantage, even if a friend is next to your enemy, you can't sneak attack. The disadvantage cancels all that out. Not for this rogue. The Smuggler says, I can still sneak attack if I have advantage, or if my friend is next to my enemy, even if I also have disadvantage. The best example I can think for this one is a total obscurement spell like Fog Cloud. A fog cloud sits over, or pure darkness when no one has dark vision. Basically, you're blinded, or you have no sight, and neither does your enemy. This normally would mean that you have disadvantage because you're attacking creatures you can't see, but you have advantage because they can't see you either. So it just cancels out and becomes a flat roll. In this case, being in that heavy obscurement, you still have your sneak attack because disadvantage won't stop it. And you have advantage all the time because they can't see you. This is a very, very cool feature that helps fix one tiny little piece of the rogue's kit that has an anti-synergy. And it's not going to come up much, because you're going to avoid disadvantage like the plague if you're a rogue. You want advantage, and you want very, very specifically to not have disadvantage. So you've built your whole strategy for 12 levels on not having disadvantage. This is a powerful feature that probably you don't need. I'm going to call it 9 out of 10. If this is a situation where you're constantly being denied your sneak attack because of disadvantage, this is going to be a huge game changer for you. But if that's the case, you probably aren't playing your rogue right, or your DM is actively working against you. So 9 out of 10 for this feature. Then the final feature that you're going to get is smuggled spells, and this one is fun. You get a special smuggler bag, which you probably have had this whole time, and it now becomes able to store spells. A caster can cast a spell into your bag, and it holds the spell like a spell storing ring. Up to 5th level spells, so first through 5th, and up to 6 levels of spells. So a 5 and a 1, a 4 and a 2, 2 3s, 3 2s, what have you. The options are there for you to choose your particular mishmash of spells. Once it's in your bag, you can use an action to cast it, and then it uses the stats, the spellcasting abilities of the person who put it in your bag, but for all other intents, you're casting it. This helps you as a rogue who doesn't have to concentrate on anything, concentrate on a powerful battlefield effect, effectively making your party stronger. This is one of those features that divides up concentration. Chronologist wizards do this, and it's considered very, very broken. And as a rogue who naturally does not have spells, it's going to enhance your abilities tenfold. Especially at level 17, when your casters are going to be very happy to give you 5th and 4th and 3rd level spells, because they've got high level magic. This is just going to make things a lot easier for them, and make you feel a lot more relevant in high level combat. So I give this feature 10 out of 10. It's supremely strong. All in all, the Smuggler Rogue is a very interesting mixture. Mostly utility. Mostly generating items. getting proficiency in ability to help you smuggle. I mean, you are a smuggler after all. Hiding better, dashing better, attacking with disadvantage better. This is just a hodgepodge of very unique powers that is hard for me to gauge. Like, some of them sound incredible, but I can't think of the specific times that they would have come up in any game I've ever played. And rogues are one of my favorite classes. They are top 3 for me. And I'm struggling to see where a lot of these powers come up. Some of them I love, some of them I'm a little confused by. I say that overall, the class is 9 out of 10. It's got some potency, and it's got some really good abilities. And then it's got some that just seem too niche to come up most of the time. You're still a rogue, and you're still going to have a really good time. So I say 9 out of 10 for the Smuggler. I see what you're trying to do, Dungeon Dudes, and I like it. Just a little bit torn about where exactly I'd use it. Maybe Drakkenheim is the perfect place for the Smuggler Rogue compared to a standard D&D campaign. So yeah, 9 out of 10. This has been the Relaxed Fantasy Review. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe down below. Have a look for the join button down there, as well as a link to Sebastian Crow's Guide to Drakkenheim. It was published by Ghostfire Games and written by my fellow YouTubers, the Dungeon Dudes, and I highly recommend you check it out for yourself. Have a good one, my friends.